President Rodrigo Duterte has admitted funds for the fight against this coronavirus is running low. To address this problem, the government realigned some 245 billion pesos in the 2020 budget. In his fifth report to Congress, the president said the money came from canceled projects and special purpose funds. So, where do we stand in terms of budget at this point in this COVID-19 crisis? For the answers, we're speaking now on The Final Word with Budget Secretary Wendell Avisado. Secretary Avisado, thank you so much for joining us. So we've seen a realignment of 245 billion pesos, and this is on top of the 400 billion pesos already allocated for the COVID-19 response. So, Secretary, do we still have enough money? Do we still have enough cash to sustain until the end of the ECQ on May 15th?
Well, first of all, good evening, Rico, and good evening to all televiewers. What I'd like to say is that the government is working within the fiscal year 2020 General Appropriations Act and the fiscal year 2019 continuing appropriations to fund the programs, projects, and activities in response to COVID-19 situation. To the extent possible, we are exploring all possible funding opportunities pursuant to the authority granted by Congress to the President under the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, including the discontinuance for the moment of appropriated programs, activities, and projects under Section 4V, that's reprogramming, reallocation, and realignment of existing budgets under Section 4X, and use of income from dividends remitted by government-owned and controlled corporations under Section 4Y to respond to this emergency.
Right.
And that therefore,
Yes,
we can say that up to this point in time, Rico, government is still able to provide the needed funds for this current crisis that we're all facing.
But Secretary Avisado, only 8.7 million families have received cash aid under the Social Amelioration Program. So there's still a gap of about 9.3 million families. In this realigned budget of 245 billion pesos, will the remaining 9.3 million families be able to receive their cash aid?
Actually, Rico, as early as April 24, we have already released all the funds necessary for the Special Amelioration Program implemented by DSWD already in their hands, so that the people can be assured that government has money and has the funds precisely to respond to their needs. It's really in the aspect of the distribution, Rico, that I think we're having some bottlenecks. Otherwise, the funds are already in their hands.
All right.
Yeah. And together with that,
what
we're
about
also
Secretary of yes?
Together with that are the
Secretary, what about the $1.5 billion that was loaned by the Philippine government from the Asian Development Bank for the COVID-19 response, and the $200 million just recently loaned by the ADB to the Philippines for vulnerable families? How will this be used over the next few weeks?
Well, that is one of the things that the Economic Development Cluster has previously discussed, and then later on at the level of the Development Management Coordinating Cluster, over which we will have a clear direction on how to use these funds. At the moment, we're just using actually the current fiscal year budget as well as that of last year, because we still have enough to provide for the needs at the moment, at this time. Yes.
So, Secretary Avisado, you say you still have enough funds. So, can you now include senior citizens and middle class families in the aid program? Because it seems they are also affected by this COVID-19 pandemic.
They are included in the Social Amelioration Program. As a matter of fact, we went to the extent of not just funding the requirements to provide amelioration assistance, not only to the informal sector, but to the formal sector as well, especially those who have been affected, the micro, small and medium enterprises. The government has provided 51 billion pesos to be given out to all the displaced workers in the formal sector, so that the entire spectrum of society, especially those who are contributing to the economy, and I'm referring precisely to the displaced workers, other than those already provided assistance by the Department of Labor and Employment, because they also have their camp and tupad. The President has instructed that all those affected, whether informal or formal, should now receive corresponding assistance from the government, Rico. Yeah.
Right. And this is good news. And thank you so much for the clarification. Budget Secretary Wendell Avisado, thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word.